You tend to plant plants
A plant that will feed the needs. So if you have a bean that produces nitrogen, you can sit it next to a cabbage that loves nitrogen. So you often we will plant nitrogen fixing trees and shrubs, and that is a plant which does help to accumulate nitrogen from the air and actually deposit it into the soil. And we will have a nitrogen fixing shrub next to one of our fruit or nut bearing trees. I always tell people, don't plant a tree, plant a guild. A guild is an association of plants and animals that are in useful relationship to each other. And obviously what it really means is emulate natural patterns. I mean, everything out there in the natural world is connected to each other in useful relationships. The more we can open up our eyes and get our observation skills so that we learn what the natural patterns are, then we can emulate them. And that is the essence of what permaculture design is that you don't see nature monocropping. You don't see nature planting one crop all by itself. Because they need each other. Frankly, you're never, in my opinion, going to get permaculture or get sustainability until you get your body outside onto earth, looking at things, smelling things, feeling things, noticing like microclimate. You can have this very academic study of microclimates and temperature differentials and heat sinks and wind flow and evaporative trends, blah, blah. And you can have it all in your head, but if you haven't been out there noticing, oh wow, just at dawn, the wind starts moving up the slope. And your body feels it and begins to expect that dawn wind coming up slope. There's a very big difference between feeling it and knowing it with your body and having the academic knowledge of understanding heat flow.
Right.
So I think that's why I just want to urge people so very much to please go outside. Please go outside. I want to plug a book here.
Go ahead.
By Christopher Alexander et al. A pattern language. A pattern language is prose poetry about the design of human settlement. The founders of the permaculture idea, that's Bill Mollison and David Holmgren. Their books they have several, but Bill Mollison's biggest one is a designer's manual. David Holmgren's main general permaculture book is called Permaculture, Pathways Beyond Sustainability. The reason that permaculture became mistakenly known as an agricultural system is because the first thing they were looking for was, how do humans feed themselves? Humans who have lived in one place for millennia, how do they feed themselves? What are their staples? And it was extremely quick. The answer was perennial foods, nuts, fruits, small animal protein. And that's how humans live all over the world, sustainably. Not that they don't eat any annual vegetables, but that they're staples, that which keeps them alive during hard times, when the floods and the droughts come. Those are your tree crops and your small animals. And so that became the basis of a permaculture food system, is to be looking at your orchards, your fruits, nuts, chickens, fish, turkeys, guinea pigs, etc. Unfortunately, of course, as we all know, most Americans, and in fact most Western Europeans' diet, are dependent on grains and large animal protein. So one of the ways that we will begin to create this sustainable culture is to change our diet. To become sustainable, we need to begin learning what is local, what is in season, and what is ecologically appropriate. That is going to take a big shift from the way we eat now to the way we will need to be eating in the future.
Okay. One more thing I wanted to just touch upon is the Medicine Wheel Collective house itself, and what y'all are doing here to incorporate permaculture design in your daily lives.
Well, hopefully just about everything.
Awesome.
So Medicine Wheel is a neighborhood of Earthaven, and we are still part of Earthaven, but every neighborhood is different here. And our desire is to create a low-tech, low-cost, collectively owned neighborhood. So our idea is we will have a giant house and about 8 little outbuildings, little cabins like Overlook Cabin that we're in right now, where people can basically have a detached bedroom so they can have their privacy needs, because that's always the big scare in living in community is, am I going to have any privacy? So you have your privacy, but you also have all of the central facilities in the big house. You have the kitchen and the office and the phone and the internet and the social spaces and etc.
The big house itself even is made of almost 100% recycled materials, right?
It's a very ethically
and it's huge.
building, and it is
it's
huge.
Pretty much a mansion.
It's
so.
giant, right? We really believe that ultimately the sustainable family unit, or the sustainable unit of humankind, is the extended family, the tribe, the clan, something like that. We will be teaching permaculture in both Asheville and here at Earthaven and in Virginia and perhaps elsewhere in 2011. The place to go to get information on my personal schedule and perhaps a deeper understanding or definition of permaculture, you can go to my website, which is patriciaallison.net, all spelled together. And you just Google permaculture and you'll discover all sorts of things about permaculture all over the world. I mean, it is definitely a happening thing. Medicine Wheel offers internships and work exchange opportunities for people to come here. They can live here, do a little bit of work in exchange for a place to stay, to come and try on this way of living. And I do advocate that people do go out there and find a way to give yourself a taste of what it feels like to live this way. It's rather rewarding. The whole eco-village movement came out of permaculture. The next movement that's coming out of permaculture is the transition movement. So there is a movement called Transition Town, and transitionus.org is the United States arm of this group. Basically, Transition Initiative is an initiative for taking a town, a city, a neighborhood, whatever group decides to come together, and looking at it in terms of its energy, self-reliance, and its resilience in the face of climate chaos. Because we're looking at peak oil and energy resource decline and climate chaos that are upcoming, which I think most sensible people will recognize are upcoming.
Yep.
And economic decline in the midst of all of that. And so it's about looking at a town and saying, okay, where's the gaps? Where's our food sources? Where's our water coming from? How can we be mutually supportive? How can people, and it's a grassroots people-to-people organizational thing. It isn't leaving out the government, but it is not necessarily dependent on our So it's a huge movement. It's happening all over the world, and I really advocate for people to get involved and get it going in your town. Another group to look for is the World Watch Institute and Lester Brown. And Lester Brown has something called Plan B, which is his minutely spelled out directive on how indeed as a nation, as a planet, as a people, as a civilization, we could turn it around. It would be drastic to get our governments to jump onto this plan. But I think I want people to know there is a plan. Yeah. It could possibly be done. We don't have to surrender to inevitable horror. But the odds of us not getting trapped in that horror are decreasing every minute as the clock ticks.